What happens when country music royalty collides with daytime television controversy? What happens when decades of unspoken truths finally explode under the glare of live cameras? Today, we revisit the confrontation that left audiences stunned and forever changed the landscape of daytime TV. It began like any other morning at The View. The studio buzzed with its usual pre-show rhythm, producers pacing, cameras humming, audience chattering. But beneath that surface, something heavier lingered. No one, absolutely no one, was prepared for what would happen the moment Reba McEntire walked on stage. Joy Behar greeted the audience with her trademark smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Queen of Country Music, Reba McEntire." The crowd erupted in applause as Reba, dressed in a deep burgundy blazer, strode to her chair. Her red hair gleamed beneath the lights, but her expression was sharper, more guarded than usual. "Reba, it's wonderful to have you." Joy began lightly, scanning her cards. "You've been making headlines with your new tour. But I've gotta ask about those comments you made last week about the industry." Reba straightened, her voice cool. "What comments exactly, Joy?" "You said the entertainment industry has lost its way, that it's become too political. Some say that's a little rich coming from someone who's been part of Hollywood for decades." The studio fell into silence. The audience leaned in. Reba's jaw tightened. "I think there's been a misunderstanding about what I said." Before Joy could press further, Whoopi Goldberg cut in. "I watched that interview 3 times, Reba. You said, and I quote, that entertainment should stay out of politics, that celebrities need to remember their place. That sounded pretty clear." Reba's Oklahoma drawl thickened as she pushed back. "What I said is that we've forgotten how to entertain without lecturing people. There's a difference." Sarah Haynes leaned forward, voice calm but pointed. "But Reba, isn't saying don't make political statements a political statement in itself?" Reba turned, eyes fixed on her. "Honey, I'm not making a political statement. I'm making a common sense one. People go to concerts. They turn on their TVs because they want to escape. They don't want to be told how to think every 5 minutes." The tension was climbing. Joy tried to ease it back. "Surely you understand that with a platform comes responsibility." "Responsibility to whom?" Reba shot back, her voice rising. "To you, or to the people who actually buy the tickets and the albums?" The audience gasped. Alyssa Farrah Griffin finally stepped in. "Reba, isn't it hypocritical to say entertainers shouldn't speak out when you've used your own voice plenty of times for causes you care about?" Reba let out a humorless laugh. "You want to talk about hypocrisy? Hypocrisy is sitting here making millions of dollars while lecturing working-class Americans about their values from a Manhattan apartment." Joy's face flushed. She leaned forward, bristling. "Are you suggesting we don't have the right to express our opinions because of where we live?" "I'm suggesting," Reba replied, her voice like steel, "that maybe you should step outside your bubble before deciding what's best for everyone else." Whoopi's voice thundered across the table. "Hold up. You're on our show, using our platform, and you're attacking us personally. That's not okay." "I'm not attacking anyone," Reba countered, still calm under the storm. "I'm pointing out a disconnect. You want to argue about what I said? Fine. But let's talk about the real issue." She turned her eyes directly to the camera, bypassing the hosts altogether. "The real issue is that everyday people are tired of being talked down to. They're tired of turning on the TV and being told they're wrong for wanting entertainment to just be entertaining. They're tired of having their intelligence insulted by people who think they know better, The room buzzed with uneasy murmurs. Sunny, host and quiet until now, spoke carefully. So, are you saying that talking about social justice or equality is talking down to people? I'm saying there's a time and a place, Reba said firmly. And maybe, just maybe, people deserve a song or a show without an agenda shoved in their face. The atmosphere was electric, every word edged with fire. Joy's voice cracked as she leaned back in. An agenda? Fighting for human rights isn't an agenda, Reba. It's basic decency. And who decides what human rights are? Reba shot back. You? Hollywood executives? Politicians? What about the right of people to think for themselves? Whoopi slammed her hand on the table, startling the room. When you have influence, you have a responsibility to use it for good. According to who? Reba's voice was rising now. According to your definition of good? That's the problem. You all think you get to decide what's best for everyone else. The studio audience buzzed with discomfort. Joy struggled to maintain her composure. We use our platform to fight injustice, to give a voice to the voiceless. Reba laughed bitterly. You want to help people? Stop treating them like they're too stupid to think for themselves. Stop assuming they need you to explain every single issue. Sarah tried to mediate, her tone strained. But silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Don't you agree? Reba turned toward her, eyes blazing. And I'm saying maybe your definition of injustice isn't the same as theirs. Maybe they're more worried about putting food on the table than whatever cause is trending this week. The audience murmured, shifting uneasily in their seats. Joy's voice was taut, cracking under pressure. So, you're saying we shouldn't care about social issues because people have bills to pay? That's a false choice. No, Joy, Reba replied, suddenly calm, almost chilling. I'm saying maybe you should care more about connecting with people than lecturing them. Maybe you should try listening to their perspective instead of dismissing it. The tension was unbearable. The commercial break loomed. But they were live. There was nowhere to run. The confrontation was far from over, and everyone in that studio could feel it. Whoopi leaned back in her chair, her voice dropping into that low, dangerous register that long-time viewers of The View knew meant trouble. Reba, let me ask you something. When you see injustice, when you see people being hurt, discriminated, against, attacked, what do you do? Do you just stay quiet because it might make someone uncomfortable? Reba didn't flinch. I help where I can, Whoopi. But I don't assume my way of helping is the only way. And I don't attack people who see things differently. Attack people? Joy's voice cracked, disbelief bleeding into her tone. Reba, we're not attacking anyone. We're using our platform to speak truth to power. Whose truth? Reba fired back instantly. Yours? The truth according to your writers, your network executives? Because I've got news for you. Millions of Americans out there have a different truth, and every day you dismiss them as ignorant. Alyssa tried to break in, but Reba pushed on, her momentum unstoppable. You want to know what's really happening? People are turning off their TVs, they're canceling subscriptions. They're walking away because they're sick of being preached to by people who live in a completely different world. Sunny's voice cut through, taut with controlled anger. So you're suggesting we ignore racism, sexism, inequality, just to keep people comfortable? I'm suggesting, Reba said, her drawl sharpening with each word, that maybe your approach isn't working. Maybe talking down to people doesn't change minds. It just hardens them. The studio was hushed now. Even the audience had gone silent, hanging on every word. Joy gripped her note cards so tightly they bent in her hands. "Reba," she said, her voice trembling with heat. "Are you saying fighting for civil rights is wrong? Don't you dare put words in my mouth, Joy." Reba's tone sliced the air like a blade. "I'm saying turning every single piece of entertainment into a political lecture is wrong. I'm saying assuming anyone who doesn't think like you is evil is wrong. And I'm saying maybe, for once, you should try listening instead of preaching." Whoopi leaned forward, her voice booming. "Listen to what? To people who want to deny others their basic rights? To people dragging us backward? No, thank you." Reba's finger shot toward her. "There it is. That attitude? You just proved my point. Anyone who disagrees with you must be hateful, must be backward. You can't even imagine good people seeing the world differently." Sarah tried to interject, her tone soft, desperate. "Reba, I think what Whoopi is saying is that some issues, basic human dignity, are black and white. There's no gray area." "And who decides what dignity means?" Reba countered. "You? This table? Because I'll tell you right now, there are parents out there who feel their dignity is attacked when their kids come home from school, being told their beliefs make them bad people." Joy slammed her palm on the table, the sound cracking through the room. "Their beliefs? Reba, if those beliefs involve hating people, then yes, those kids should hear another perspective. Hating people?" Reba's voice was incredulous, rising above the noise. "Joy, do you even hear yourself? You just assumed anyone who disagrees with you hates people. That's exactly what I'm talking about." The tension was suffocating. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Whoopi shook her head vigorously. "When people vote against equality, for women, for minorities, for LGBTQ rights, what do you call that, Reba?" "I call it democracy," Reba shot back, without hesitation. "I call it people having different opinions about how to solve problems. But you'd rather call it hate, because that's easier than actually trying to understand why they think the way they do." Alyssa's voice strained as she tried to cool the flames. "But surely you understand the frustration, Reba. People feel like others are voting against their very lives, their futures." "Of course I understand frustration," Reba replied, her voice softening for the first time. "But I also understand the frustration of people who feel called names, shamed, silenced, for holding on to values they were raised with. People who feel their voices don't matter anymore." Sonny leaned forward sharply. "Traditional values? Reba, that's just code for discrimination. You know that." Reba's eyes flashed. "No, Sonny. That's code for your interpretation of anything that doesn't fit your worldview. To many people, traditional values mean family, community, faith, hard work. But you hear those words and immediately assume hate." Joy's face was flushed now, her voice raw. "When those so-called values are used to strip away rights, then yes, I have a problem with them. And when your so-called progressive values are used to destroy livelihoods, to silence half the country, to call them deplorable, then I have a problem with that." Reba's words landed like blows. The tension spiked when Whoopi rose from her chair, a move so rare the audience gasped. "Half the country, Reba. We're talking about people who want to take away voting rights, reproductive rights, marriage, rights. How do you expect us to sit quietly while that happens?" Reba didn't rise. She didn't have to. Her voice carried like thunder across the set. "I expect you to try to understand why they think that way, instead of demonizing them. To have conversations instead of lectures. To build bridges instead of burning them down. Joy's voice broke into a near shout. Build bridges! With people who want to harm others? That's not how this works. Some things are just wrong, Joy said, nearly screaming. And some things are just different. Reba fired back, matching her volume. But you can't tell the difference anymore, because you've lived in an echo chamber so long, you've forgotten what regular people actually think and feel. Sarah, her voice trembling, made one last attempt to steady the chaos. Please, both of you, let's take a breath. Character assassination? Joy's voice was shaking with rage. Reba, when people's lives are on the line, calling out harmful beliefs isn't assassination. It's accountability. Reba leaned forward, eyes blazing. No, Joy. Accountability is when someone breaks the law or causes direct harm. What you're doing is trying to destroy anyone who doesn't toe your exact political line. That's not justice. That's intimidation. Sunny jumped in, her tone cutting. Intimidation? Reba, you're flipping the script. The real intimidation is when marginalized groups are told to sit down and shut up while laws strip away their rights. Reba snapped back, her voice rising above the noise. And the real intimidation is when everyday people are terrified to speak their minds because they know if they say one wrong word, folks like you will come for their jobs, their reputations, their families. That's not progress. That's fear. The audience gasped. Some clapped. Others murmured. The air was thick with tension. Whoopi leaned across the table, her tone dark and deliberate. Fear, Reba? You want to talk about fear? Try being black in America. Try being gay in America. Try being a trans kid in America. That's real fear, not someone getting called out for saying something ignorant. Reba didn't flinch. Her voice was low, but every syllable carried. And try being a parent who feels their values are under attack at every single day. Try being told you're a hateful bigot just because you go to church. Fear cuts both ways, Whoopi. You just don't want to admit it. The studio erupted. Cheers, boos, gasps colliding in a chaotic wave. Joy slammed her fist against the desk, her voice nearly cracking. This isn't about church, Reba. This is about equality. You can hide behind religion all you want, but at the end of the day, if you support policies that strip people of rights, you are on the wrong side of history. Reba rose slightly in her chair, her jaw set. And if you think screaming louder makes you right, Joy, then maybe you've forgotten what this country was built on. Freedom of thought, freedom of belief, freedom to disagree without being destroyed. The audience was now on their feet, torn between applause and outrage. The camera zoomed in tight as the table stood at the edge of collapse. Reba held her ground, her voice unwavering. Holding people accountable for their actions and their votes isn't character assassination. Accountable? Reba laughed, but the sound was cold, humorless. Is that what you call trying to destroy someone's career because they donated to the wrong candidate? Is that what you call digging through someone's social media from 10 years ago just to find something to be offended by? Is that what you call turning every disagreement into a moral crusade? Whoopi shot up from her chair again, her voice booming through the studio. When people's actions hurt others, when their votes deny others basic rights, then yes, there should be consequences. Reba rose too, meeting her face to face. And when your actions hurt people of faith, when your votes attack their religious freedom, when your consequences destroy their livelihoods, where are their protections? Or do they not count because they're not part of your coalition? The studio was electric. Security inched closer, sensing the danger. Joy's hands shook as she gripped her note cards so tightly they tore. Religious freedom? she screamed. Reba! Religious freedom doesn't give you the right to discriminate against people. And political freedom doesn't give you the right to discriminate against religious people. Reba shot back, her voice rising to match Joy's. But somehow that's exactly what's happening, and you're all perfectly fine with it. Sonny tried to cut in, but Reba was unstoppable now. You want to know what's really happening out there? People are afraid. Afraid to speak their minds, afraid to express their beliefs, afraid to disagree with the approved narrative, because they know people like you will try to destroy them. Whoopi's voice thundered back. People like us? People like us are fighting for equality, for justice, for basic human rights. People like you, Reba's reply sliced through the air, sharp and clear, are fighting for conformity. You want everyone to think exactly like you think, believe exactly what you believe, and vote exactly how you vote. And if they don't, you want them silenced. The studio erupted into chaos. Hosts were yelling over one another. Audience members shouting. The cameras capturing every moment of the breakdown. Joy leapt to her feet, her voice cracking. That's enough! Reba! Whoopi roared above the noise. If you think fighting for people's rights is the same as forcing conformity, maybe you need to take a long look in the mirror. Reba scanned the angry faces at the table, then turned and locked, eyes with the camera. Her words landed like a hammer. Maybe you all need to take a long look at what you've become. You claim to fight for tolerance, but you're the most intolerant people on television. You claim to fight for inclusion, but you exclude anyone who doesn't think like you. You claim to fight for diversity, but the only diversity you care about is skin deep. The studio went silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Finally, Whoopi spoke, her voice deadly calm. I think we're done here. No, Joy snapped, her voice trembling with emotion. I think we've been done for a while. Security. Security moved closer to the stage. Reba picked up her purse, her dignity intact, and stood tall. You know what the saddest part of all this is? I came here hoping to have a real conversation, but you can't have a conversation with people who think anyone who disagrees with them is evil. She walked toward the exit, then turned back one last time. Good luck building bridges when all you know how to do is burn them down. The cameras followed her as she strode off the set, leaving the hosts visibly shaken. The audience sat frozen in stunned silence before the show abruptly cut to an unscheduled commercial break. The confrontation was over, but the aftermath would be talked about for years. It was a moment that captured America's divide in real time, on live television, with no script and no safety net. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Did Reba go too far? Or were her points valid? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more stories that dive deep into the moments that define our culture.